Hi, and welcome to Conscious Awareness TV. Today is December 12th, 2013, and we are going to continue from last week into cleaning out your internal external closets. And today we have with us today Jeanie Lemaire, and she will be speaking with us at the also about who put the mind in charge. And what's interesting is because, just to kind of go back to last week, with this we had a power outage. And so it's just interesting how, we, in our life, actually things shut down. We shut down. We're going to be talking about the mind today. We're going to be talking about cleaning out your internal external closets, which is all going to be in relationship to this whole thing about your mind and life and how things happen in life and continue and how we can shut down and what's going on and happening. So we're going to continue that. So you guys can, I'm sure you're wondering, like, what happened? You were thirsty and wanting more information. So we've got some news to share around that and how that power outage really kind of we shifted our perspective on that and knew that everything was perfect. But we're going to share with you our perceptions around that and how that is in relationship to cleaning out your internal external closets, and also who put the mind in charge, and inquiring minds want to know. So with that, I want to welcome Jeanie Lemaire back to the show again, and it's just such a pleasure, just amazing. And you look so beautiful today.
Thank you.
Just absolutely stunning. And she has these rocking shoes, I'm telling you. These shoes are like phenomenal. You guys can't see them, but it's okay. Just take my word for it. They're absolutely beautiful. So let's talk about, because we didn't get to continue cleaning out your internal external closets, and really how with this power outage plays in relationship to all of that.
Well, gosh, 25 words or less?
That's never going to be.
What I would say about that is the power outage at any time. We're going along, we're trying to get momentum, a better job, fixing our relationship, whatever, in reference to the closet, getting the clothes that we want to wear that represent us. But there are times when we just really run out of steam. We're wanting things to go forward, and all of a sudden it comes to a standstill. Maybe we're getting a little depressed and we just can't find enough enthusiasm. Maybe it's the physicality. We set too many activities in motion, and now I'm just too tired to keep up with the pace. And also, even with the mind, as we, go to it's used to help us get where we're going. It's designed to support us. It's designed to gather information so we can make good decisions and have clarity. But literally, there are times when you're going along, and either by your estimation or something else, life just kind of stops, or something huge enters in. And for us, it was the power outage, because it's like, okay, do we sit here? Is it coming back? Is it not? And it really wasn't off 2 streets that way, and it wasn't off 2 streets that way. So we were pretty clear it was for our benefit. And as it turns out, we got news about the place where we're staying that we needed to have in reference to setting up the next few shows. So it's so fascinating sometimes how the greater self or the larger world provides news that to us individually is like, oh dear, oh heavens, and in truth it's very helpful. So I had to laugh because every other show we've talked on topics, but I didn't have any really point of reference, and this one dealing with the external and internal closets, I'm talking about a 5-step program. And we were on step number 3. So I'm thinking, well, if there was ever going to be a power or outage, at least I remember where I last was. Right. So for those of you who have watched the other part of the show, and now we're putting this half in, I'm going to just briefly say part 1, part 2, and get on to part 3, which is the first thing is we have clothes in our closet that don't fit. For whatever reason, they just don't fit. And we keep them around for a lot of different reasons, but it's time to let them go. And the same is with us internally. We have known upsets. We say, oh, that happened in childhood, that's long gone, but it's not. We store it in our internal closet. So a first visit with me would be to clear out as much of that physically, mentally, and emotionally at the same time, so that your internal closet has more room for today's news. Now, the second step is really the most profound, because it's the one we have the least amount of news about. And that's things that are in your external closet that they fit, but you don't wear. Now, maybe there's a button missing, but usually they're perfectly fine, but we don't wear them. And it's the same for us. Inside our unconscious and subconscious, we have items we don't realize we're operating from, or we're guarding ourselves against, or we're monitoring ourselves. So we think, oh gosh, I got rid of that one upset I had with my girlfriend in 6th grade, and things still aren't going forward because we don't realize these other things are there. So getting things out of the closet that you just don't wear is also another way of opening the space externally and internally. So moving on to step 3, just to catch up on these. The third step is really assessing your closet. It's really like we've gotten rid of what doesn't fit, we've gotten rid of some things that fit and we're not wearing. Now, what's there? And I had one friend say, oh my, it's all jeans and hoodies. Okay, well that took care of that because we got rid of clothes that had looked interesting but weren't being worn, and we had clothes that no longer fit. And once you take those out, it's like, okay, how do I assess my closet? And in my work, the third step would be chatting with somebody. I prefer inform, but it's not necessary, and explaining my system out of the second book I wrote, The Magical Essence of Being, because all I'm doing is reminding people of what talents and gifts, of which there are endless number, that are most important to us. So to an angelic kindness. That's really important, not like it's not important to all of us. But as I've worked with the person on the first 2 steps, then I can better tell you, it looks to me like that you like to do this and this and this and this, and they'll go, yeah, I love that. There you have it. So we're wondering, what's my purpose, or how can I have a job doing what I love? Well, you first have to be able to assess your truth, not what you were told, not what you were expected over the years to do, not any of these other things that can enter into how we operate, but what really is true for you. And what's also true is we all of us, speak either through the mental or the emotional doorway when we speak, and we don't hear it. But over the years and working with people, it shouts pretty loud at me, and my friends I work with will attune to that. So knowing what base you speak from, or whether you're overriding yourself, depends on whether you're sending a mixed message out in the world. That happens too, and we're not aware.
Yeah, it's fascinating how you're saying that you can actually tell a person's life by by the closet. Like you can tell their life. There's a story. Which I think is interesting. And also something that you had mentioned too, with about the power outage, and that this was a sign really that we know that we needed to move on, because we know where we're going, so the universe is just supporting us when it could look the same way. So it's really the same thing as this internal external closet, and also the conversation, who put the mind in charge, that the universe is always giving us this push, so to speak, of like the shutdown, whatever's happening, to say there's a bigger and better plan for you. We're going to move you forward. So cleaning out all the stuff that is not serving us anymore, internally, externally.
And
really
we haven't got to the mind part, but it's really saying, often for all of us, just due to habit energy, we think a situation can only have one response.
Right.
And we don't mean that, but it's just that's how it shows up to us. So when we say living consciously, we're talking about wanting to get ourselves in the moment of saying, do I need to be upset about this, or is it telling me something else?
Right.
And sometimes we are upset.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But it's in that moment that, like you said, it's being in that conscious awareness of, what am I? How am I being? Really, again, consciousness. If the definition in the dictionary is about being aware of how you're being and why.
Yes. Like, and at that time, what you're being
at that moment, absolutely. So, which is really important. That if we are going to be conscious about what's happening, so. Fascinating.
I know, and the thing is, I find that we're a little like the laws of our land. I don't believe they take laws off the book. They add new laws trying to offset some old law, but they never remove any of them that no longer pertain to who we are as Americans. And it's the same with our closet. We, get to a certain age. I mean, when you're younger, when you grow from when you were in 3rd grade to 5th grade, we don't keep those clothes. But we get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden we're pack rats. Yes. And I'm not sure what we're saving.
I know, for a rainy day. I mean, I've had stuff in my closet for 20 years, and I'm thinking, wow, but what?
But do you wear some of them?
No, but I've gotten rid of a lot of that stuff. But that's funny, because you think, oh my gosh, because it seems like everything comes back. The 70s stuff will come back, the 80s, when they had the capris. I thought, I'm never going to wear that. then it goes out of style. So it just seems like it keeps coming back. So I think, okay, what if I had part of my closet that had all these different eras that I could just go in that part of the closet and say, okay, well, this is in fashion. So, But
you're speaking again, you're talking about the consciousness. Linda's conscious that these fashions are happening. Now, the great thing about her and I sitting here chatting is I am so unconscious of what's in. And if you might notice, this is it's a very elegant, nice outfit, but it's more timeless because through friends, and thank you all very much, I've received clothes that I feel at least look nice, but they're not necessarily current. Now,
this is very current.
Am I current now?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I just went through one of her cycles she just spoke of, because in this case, I have owned this piece of clothing for a while, waiting for the time when it was appropriate to wear. So there's the universe helping me to look more present.
Right.
But like I said, we have our part, and we have the universe or the larger world part to help us, and we're not always sure which part is which. So we're all getting conscious on that as well.
Absolutely.
So,
and then going to step 4. So when step 3, so you're just really kind of
I'm going to be talking with people and giving you an idea of what you're letting me know is important to you and how you live your life. And I'm talking from the inner, but it's reflected out here in the outer and what job you do. So after that, then we have the 4th step, which is after you've assessed your closet, you want to add a few things that do apply to who you are here today. You've done some clearing, you've done assessing, and now a couple of items that are more current to yourself here today. So again, it just happened I wrote these books in this opposite order, but when I work with people, I'll go to the one I wrote first, The Body Talks, and that one is about clearing and opening and re-establishing your 3, I call them members, team players, gateways, your physical body representative, your mental body representative, and emotional. I'll say right here, people always ask, well, what about the spiritual body? And what I'm trying to get across to people is that's who we are. We are spiritual beings having a human life, as we know that phrase. But to link those two, we use a physical body, we use conversation, and we use emoting. So that's why if your systems aren't up to speed, then they're not helping you currently get where you want to go. So again, speaking about the mind, bringing that in, one of the things the mind likes to do to help us is affirmations. And again, it's very helpful, except if the other systems and the mind itself are not up to fully taking in the energy, the healing energy of that affirmation. So I have had people come to me and say, well, I've done these affirmations for years and nothing's happening. I said, well, it's not that the affirmation doesn't work. We're like a drain that's a little clogged. We need to clear out the drain so the water can flow freely. So
I want to step back really quick because I feel like the viewers and listeners are, because it's a question that I have as well. By the closet, you were saying you can determine somewhat of what their life purpose would be. How is that possible?
Again, the external comes from the internal. So if we start with the external, we're just going to bring you conscious to the presentation you're putting out in the world on yourself. Now inside, you may be making changes, going to classes, starting to speak different, but outside we're seeing what we've always seen. And unfortunately, after we see you wear that kind of clothing 2, 3, 5, 10 times, we now put you in the box of someone who wears jeans and hoodies, or we put you in the box of someone who overdresses for everything they go to, or we put you in the box of does she know that those clothes don't fit or don't fit her or him? These are things that we box people. So the truth is the change takes place internally, but it is reflected externally. So if I'm not sure what's going on inside me, I'm the fish in my own pond, I don't see my water, then I can by the closet say, this is what you're sharing. Is that what's true for you? And they're like, well, yeah, when I was 17. And I said, well, you're still giving that bit of news out there. So if people don't take you seriously, it can show up in your clothing. That doesn't mean we all have to go to Neiman Marcus. It just means that there are different, what do you call it, official, what's like a police uniform. We have uniforms. And not just for the police or the forest rangers and stuff. Even in life, we have uniforms.
Interesting.
There's plenty of selection,
Yeah.
but that helps us know if you're a corporate lawyer or if you're, like I said, a forest ranger.
Right, so
It just
depending upon
tells
what
us.
the clothes
Mhm.
are. Interesting, I would never have thought of it that way.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and it's not meaning to curtail any of us. It's
Right.
just the outward way of trying to let people know what's going on internally. So
Right.
folks that know me,
Yeah.
I'm looking to dress up so I can match what I'm about and what
Yeah.
Linda and I are about, which is the power of conscious awareness
Right.
in this moment.
Absolutely.
And
Living
it's
it.
so powerful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, real quick, so number 5, just to finish this
Yes.
up so we can move on. The 5th is going to be an assessment. It's going to be a coming together, getting questions answered and adapting with all of this news. But I do want to say, unlike, again, the mental who would say, so if I come to you, it's 5 sessions, and how long are they, and
Yeah.
how much are they?
And how many times do
And-
I have to come?
Exactly. It
So, yeah.
isn't that set. You
Yeah.
may have 2 or 3 visits for the first getting out clothes that don't fit. It's not an exacting science, but we want to make clearing internally an exacting science. How long will this take? And I'm going to pay X amount, and therefore I should receive this. I can't say because we're working together, and that's another item that we are coming into in this time. Is it's time to come together with our gifts and
Right.
talents. It's time to honor everybody's contribution to our life, to their lives, and it fits in this as well.
Well, and I think what's interesting, because I know for myself, working with you and just in general, I thrive on growing. So I think it's important what I would say to the viewers and listeners in listening to this and saying how many times you have to come and how much or how do I have to pay or whatever. It's like really when you come to the point of going, I want my life to be really different. There's a conviction. There has to be a really strong desire behind that to say, I am willing to do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
If your relationships, whether it be business, intimate, friends, whatever, career, I think people get to that point of like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And in that moment, like you say, how much is your life worth to you?
Yeah.
And I think it's when you start to see things happen and you feel, and I can attest to that, it's unexplainable. It's like, and the universe does correspond. It's just like things are happening. You're like, oh my gosh, like this really does exist, and it really does happen when you kind of know, and it, and we're going to go into the mind about that. But so that's what I would say to the viewers and listeners, really, to have that desire and to have that conviction of that wanting to have your life different, wanting to know your purpose. But why is it so important to you? Mm-hmm. So once you start all that,
but do keep in mind, as Linda's saying, that's what we are open to. But being in a space of including everything, this may not be your time. You may have too many things on your plate, So it's okay to take it in
Right.
your own timing.
Yes.
There's no rush. There's no right or wrong.
Right.
There's no you're going to be put in jail because you didn't grow today.
Yeah.
It's about saying that there are things that we can't even put a word to that
Right.
can shift whether we receive negative abundance or positive abundance.
Right.
And I'm just saying the people I interact with mostly indicate they want positive abundance.
Right.
Because this universe, this greater whatever we want to call it, is always providing. And that's what we don't realize, is that when we're receiving a lot of negative abundance, there are things we can do inside ourselves to change that.
Now, we're not just talking about financial abundance, because abundance is everything.
Yeah, no. Abundance
just
is
so the clarification. For the
abundance is getting all green
Yes.
lights because you left late for work and you got there on time.
Yes.
Abundance is, you're going to pay for something and today it's on sale and you paid a lot less. Abundance is, oh gosh, you forgot to tell someone, so you're not going to be there on time, and when you both arrive, you are equally late and neither one's upset.
Right.
Abundance is having such miraculous, simultaneously incredible, serendipitous moments that you just can't imagine. And so I mean, an example, Linda, I think last week briefly spoke of having, not sure, lost or misplaced her sunglasses.
Very
and she was
sad.
sad.
Yes.
Very sad.
Yes.
Nice. They had meaning to her. Yes, they had an expense, but it wasn't that. It was the meaning. It was gotten on a trip. And so, you know, she had to release all that upset and stuff, and then please tell them how it transpired for you.
Well, after the whole outage, everything had happened, and I had met with Alan, and we had spoken and driving, and just a lot of things that he had said about how, you know, here the traffic lights, and all of a sudden they're out, and everything is chaotic, and you know, people are not sure, is it your turn, my turn? And so we had this really awesome conversation. It really started making me think, you know, just about life and about meaning and about these sunglasses. And I remember you losing your earmuffs, and she had this little ceremony, and I thought, wow. And it really made me think that everything is important. I mean, I don't want to say important. Everything
matters
is like
to us.
Matters.
It has
meaning to it. And so on the way home, I just sort of did this little ceremony of, you know, thanking my sunglasses for, you know, protecting my eyes and, you know, really being good. You know, just awesome pair of sunglasses. And then after I did all that, I realized, did I really like these sunglasses? Like, were they really fashionable? Because honestly, they weren't. I mean, they were in the best sense that I could get for what I wanted. And so I thought, oh, well, they really weren't all that fashionable, but I really still like those. But you know what? The universe, and then in that moment, it was like the universe has a much better plan for me, meaning that a different pair of sunglasses that are fashionable that I can afford. So I was like, wow, okay, great. There it is. I've got a different pair of sunglasses. It's been a year. I can get one that I get a pair that I really liked. And so after that happened, I think it wasn't that night. I think it was the next day, literally, I found my sunglasses.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you're back. You know, that was so, you know, it was just a short, but in all honesty, I really feel it was the universe showing me it's about letting go.
Absolutely.
And releasing that and knowing that the universe is really there to provide, that it has a much bigger, better plan that we could ever not even dream of. But I think it was really the letting go process.
And this is what's so interesting to me in reference to who put the mind in charge anyway.
Yes.
Because she could easily have just stayed with, oh my gosh, expensive, I felt bad, they mattered to me, and just stay in that upset. And then again, you know, the mind thinking that's the only thought we can hover around. But once she was able to honor those sunglasses as part of this whole experience we're having, and you know, and to release it, and the mind will say, oh, I released that. But you can tell if you have or not, because if some miracle hasn't happened, you haven't released it fully.
Or don't you think the emotion, you're talking about the gateways?
I know, that's what I'm saying. You need emotional and physical awareness in there, letting go as well. So often, this is why the reason we have the topic about who's in charge of the mind anyway, is that I'm always saying to people, you know, we've got so many books out there. We've got books on the same topic. We've got plenty of news on this planet. And if that's not enough, we've got your computer. So there's nothing we can't find out about. And yet, I look around the planet and I'm not seeing people all that happy or like everything's handled. So I'm thinking if it's just about, you know, the mind being in charge, or people who do mental work getting paid more, I'm thinking, you know, in the physical world, you know, short of, you know, sports people or entertainment folks, you know, they get paid for what they're doing, but like in construction, there's a lot of time they're not working. And then if you work in the emotional realm like I do, well, you know, that's left up to just friends. You know, you just, a couple of friends talk, that's it. It's hard to make a living. So we really orient it towards the information, and the reason for that is because we can measure it. We can ask you, do you know the capital of Idaho? And right this minute, I'm not even sure. I think it's Boise. But you know, you really, it's like that's something you can measure. And Linda knows I love Wheel of Fortune. I love it because it's all figuring it out. But I have actually gotten to stage 2 on that show, and there again comes the mental. You have to take a little written exam. It's not like the show's done. You do that at first, you do that at the end, but that little bit, that little dip down into the mental realm, because there's a lot of good people that could, you know, be on the show doing the pick a letter and figuring it out, but they have to decide who to pick, so they go to measuring. and they use a mental stick for that. They
Wow.
decide. So I'm saying it's in everything that we do. I'm not wanting to be without my mind.
Yes.
It's one of the three systems, and
Yes.
I wouldn't remember what I drive or who I love or anything without it. I'm just saying I don't think it realizes it has some team players.
Yeah.
So
True.
as much as
Absolutely.
we would like.
Absolutely. And you talk about personal worth as well. So I think that's really interesting how this whole mind and who put the mind in charge of really in relationship to our personal worth. Can you expand on that and kind of?
Well, it's again, in this work, I've been blessed to meet a lot of different human beings. And I have met some, because I used to live in Texas, who own the state of Texas and beyond. I also, in the state of Texas, met some people that did not even have 2 dimes to rub together. And when I worked with them, on the inner, I realized there was no difference. We were all wanting to love and be loved, heard, appreciated, get our upsets out, feel freer in our expression of ourselves. There was no difference. And that's because the now systems of our emotions and our physicality are not greater or lesser in anybody, whether you're a baby that just was born or you've been here 90 years. It doesn't have any distinction. I understand we need some distinctions because we have to decide who's in first grade and who's in third,
Right, yes.
I'm not against having distinctions. I'm just saying, I'm wondering if we could expand. And I thought what the best question I think the mind could come up with anywhere in life, whether it's with your family or on the job or whatever, would be to say, how can I help?
Yes.
How can I help? And whatever they say, okay. Not like trying to decide if it's good enough for us or if it's beneath us or if it's sliding because we're black or we're tall or we've got pink polka dots. It's because, really, how can I help says, I am open and available with whatever my resources are. And it just opens in that moment another person's emotional and physical response. Because that says in the moment, or as close as the moment as the mind can get,
Right.
it gets pretty close, but
Yes.
that's it, is to say, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And again, I look to our government, for example. I remember years ago when Clinton first got elected, and somewhere in some speech he said, wow, I thought after the election we were all to work together. I understand there's the 2-party systems and you fight for who gets the position. But after that, I thought we were to work together, and I'm thinking he was under the same illusion or delusion that I am. So when I watch a part of our government just do things to spite another part of our government, I'm thinking, where's the how can I help my constituents? How can I help the country? How can I help my family? How can I help America's position in the world? So I don't know. I just have these questions. Obviously, nobody's asking me. I'm just saying, who put the mind in charge anyway? I mean, who just said, that it has to be a certain way? And think on this. When a baby's born, they don't have the judgments. They don't have the upsets. But depending on where they arrived on the planet, their experiences, their parents' experiences, the experiences of the government around them, or the the environment, all these things enter into a whole bunch of news that we're operating from that when I work individually, I'm not running into. I'm running into a whole different person who's trying to keep up with all that's expected of them in the planet. So I'm just saying, gosh, if the mind's about information and support, I would say the best information is to say we've got 3 systems that are present in every situation. Take a minute to see how you feel about it physically. Is there any physical consternation? And emotionally. Do you feel enlivened or do you feel drained? That kind of tells you how the event went.
Exactly.
So,
well, it's interesting because I know from myself too, speaking, when we talked about different experiences, is that, I'll be, this is an example of building a fire. I had told you I was going to build a fire. And my emotion really wanted to build the fire. And this is really how the mind really and the emotion, all these gateways really interact, which I wouldn't have, thought about this until you had mentioned it. And so then my mind was like, oh, it's going to take 3 hours. It's going to burn. I'm going to be in bed before then. It's going to be, so I had this stuff going on. But yet I really emotionally wanted to have the fire. Of course, my physical would have came right along. And so when I talked to you the next day, and you asked me about building the fire, and I said, no, I didn't because of, 3 hours, and I went through this whole long thing. And you're like, thank the mind. You know, and I was like, wow, that's so true. Like, I totally talked myself out of having this fire when I really wanted to do it. And so now it's like I'm consciously aware of, okay, I want to build a fire. And if my mind starts going, well, you know, you don't have enough wood, or, you know, or whatever it is, it's like, okay, you know, so, and it's the emotion really checking in with that.
Absolutely. And gets back to your notion of personal worth.
Yes.
Okay. In personal worth, it only grows in the moment we're experiencing whether it's there or not. That's the moment it grows. So if we can stop ourselves when our mind says, oh, well, I don't deserve that anyway, or gosh golly, I just don't have enough because I really need $10,000 a month for me to live. When in truth, if you listed all the things, this is where the mind can be helpful.
Yes.
List all of the bills and all of your interests and stuff, and then you see what you're earning and you go, wow, I do have enough.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, the mind picks up some news that maybe was true last week or 6 years ago, but it's not true today. Today, you're saying, you know, I really do have enough. And as we announce that to ourselves, we invite in whatever this big programmer is. You know, I call it totality. You'll hear me use that word. Universe, God, higher self, big world, the Big Bang Theory, whatever.
Yeah.
But it helps, you know, when we say, you know, I really deserve to have this work out. And lo and behold, beyond our part, we have to do our part, but beyond our part, things happen. Now, Linda told you the story quickly about her sunglasses. I'm going to tell you the story about my zipper.
Yeah.
Because, of course, this is a very inconsequential, who cares kind of story. But
no, because it's very interesting because it just really goes along with everything we're talking about.
I know, but I'm saying that's what the mind would tell you.
Yes, exactly.
That's what the mind would be saying about this story, which simply is, I did go to December 9th. I was out there with friends, and I decided to use one of those porta potties as my last stop before going back to the car. And you know, they're kind of tight quarters, so getting things zipped up, didn't think a thing on it. And so, you know, we had to walk about a half hour to my car. All that, came on home, and by the time I got home and was taking my pants off, I recognized that something was missing, and it was the little extended little portion that you actually use to zip up. And I was too tired to put my pants away, this or that. Well, in the morning, my housemate, God bless, he comes to tell me his stories. This is his half of the same story. He didn't have his glasses on. He saw something in the hallway on the tile. He thought it was a bug. Well, it could have been. It was dark and all that, so he gets tissue and he goes to squish the bug, but it kind of made a funny sound. But anyway, he picked it up, and as he's going to put in the trash, he realizes that it looks like it's the end of some zipper thing. So he comes to tell me the story. Now, the night before, and in the morning, like Linda said, I'd had my little ceremony. My pants still work, but it's like, I'm so sorry if I, you know, janked on it too hard and, you know, we lost it. That was me. I offered myself forgiveness. I wasn't out to hurt my pants. I'd done all that. So I'm sitting at his computer, and he goes, I think I found something of yours. And there, after, who knows, it had to have been dislodged during the process of using the porta potty, but I walked a half hour, got in my car, got out of my car, got things out of my car, got me out of the car, and it still fell along the hallway.
In your house, yes.
What are the chances? Yes. What are the chances? Because I was totally willing to let it go. I understood I was the part that had brought this on, and I released it. I forgave myself, and darn if I don't have the little piece back.
Yes.
So, so I know that sounds to us so inconsequential, but that is exactly how the universe works. It does not matter if the item is priceless and can't be replaced, or is something you got at the 5 and dime, or is part of another outfit.
Right.
We really have the ability to bring the abundance, because once we truly don't care and we've forgiven ourselves, now we're not hooked mentally to right or wrong or good or bad or high or low.
Right.
Darn if the universe says, oh, well, then no problem, we'll just give it back. So
exactly. I wanted to tap on something that you had mentioned. I love that. I mean, so now have you got? Now you
so
just got to. Yeah.
She's got her glasses. I got my zipper back.
You got your zipper back. So we're you know, we released that and let go. You had mentioned about having enough. And so what came to me was, when we talk about enough, to give the viewers and listeners an idea of, we talk about personal worth, but there's also about that when we're filled enough within. So let's can you give us a little bit of information
Here's
about that?
the thing, because we for a good 5,000 years have promoted the mental and sort of discounted the emotional. It doesn't mean we don't emote, but we don't consider that system as valuable to us. It's like it's okay to have, but so what? This is where the truth of the matter is, enough sits in our emotional system. That's the system that alerts us, alerts our mind that we're feeling good enough, that we have enough money for our life at the moment. Doesn't mean we can't have more. That we have enough friends, or enough accolades, or enough listenability, or enough flow. You know, so it's an odd word, but it's a knowingness that the emotional system has, and the physical will validate it for us. And how it validates us is by de-stressing us. We have enough. So we take a breath, we relax. When we're de-stressed, we're not shutting down our lymph system and other vital organs that tend to go astray or move into dis-ease at times. We weren't meant to be frantic every moment. And frantic could just be, oh, I'm going on a date with this guy for the first time. Oh gosh, will it work out? Will he like me? That's frantic. Our emotional system is distressed. It can be on the job. This report's due and it's not done and we don't have all the information. So it can be a mental distress. So, you know, it can come in any form, but we just don't yet realize that each system has jobs that are to unify together for us. The same as we all have different great talents and gifts. We're to unify with each other. So, you know, oneness is not about being the same. Separation is about having everyone the same so they don't distress us. In oneness, we like the uniqueness. We like that you're different. We like that they know things that I don't know or don't have as strong an input in. So that's what we're looking to go to, and that's what we want in the show and to keep building, is that reminding us of where different news sits and how we can access it. And like Linda's saying, in the moment, I can actually view this differently. With your sunglasses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because it's just, you know, with everything, with the shutdown of the power outage, with everything, it's just I just find it really fascinating. It doesn't matter where you're at in your life, that things are going to happen, and it's in those moments that we are consciously aware of, and like you said, it's where the growth really happens.
Absolutely. And as you point out, in the power outage, that was a physical thing, outside, quote, our activity. We didn't like blow a fuse or anything like that. So that was a physical announcement, of which we had both emotional and mental news come up. Because, like I said, do we stay and is it going to come back on, or how do we approach this? And then mentally, what does this mean? Well, at the moment, it's a little distressing because you're in the middle of a conversation. But beyond that, we recognized it had more meaning. And as we asked questions and went out further in our life, we got news even about the taping of this show. So we would not have had that news if there hadn't been this physical distress. Sometimes it's an emotional distress. You're in the middle of a conversation and someone says, I've got to go now, I'll talk to you later. And they're like, you feel like you're, just worth nothing, because all of a sudden someone's just cut you off. So that's news from the emotional. That our physical, most people stop breathing when that happens. You're in the headlights. And mentally we're like, what? And so, like I said, it can come from any angle. But all three systems have input in both the acknowledgement of what went on and the recovery. So that's what's so cool.
And it's just, again, like I said, I think having the mind, and we don't want to discount that, because it really is something, but it's having, my sense is what you're saying, and I, from experiencing, I know that what you're saying, it's having all three of these really work together and knowing which ones.
And you just made me think of something.
Perfect.
I'm always interrupting her. I'm going to do my best not to do that. But it was true, like with friends. When two friends are together, so there's two systems in the now, the emotional and the physical, meaning they don't have to send memos. When you stub your toe, you say ouch automatically. Okay, you don't like think, oh gosh, I wonder what I think about that. But it's like with friends. Have you ever been the third wheel in a friend? Well, that's the mental, because it's the only system that's half a hair outside the moment, so we can remember and we can make goals and we can think on things that aren't happening right now. So it's kind of like the third wheel. That's why it gets a little judgmental or a little jealous over the other two. So I've been in that way before. Growing up, I had 3 years where we moved to entirely different towns. I was a new kid on the block. So all these other kids, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they were all friends. So, a couple of people, and I came up, I was that third wheel. So I'm just saying that shows up even in our mental, wanting to defend our position and wanting to say, I'm of value, I've got something to say, or, oh gosh, why bother, nobody's listening. It'll do a variety of things trying to protect us because we're feeling out of the loop.
So what would you do in an instant like that if you were the third wheel in that group?
I know.
So how would you really handle it? Because that's happened to me as well, and I just I shut down.
Of course, and because we're nice people, we're trained to be nice people, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean we're trained not to tell the truth. So unlike others, the training didn't take so well for me. So I can, any number of things, being these 6 essences, and we'll keep getting back to that, being wizard, I might have been in my unicorn nature, and like Linda say, not say anything and just kind of disappear. Or I might have been in my angelic and go, stop dead because, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I don't, as yet feel a part of this group. But if I'm in my gregarious Elvian nature, I might say, oh wow, I see that you two have been friends for a long time. How long is that? And I get people start talking about themselves, and I get them start letting me include them. I ask questions. Like I said, if the mental will think, like, how can I help, is in that situation, is how can I help these people let me in? How can I help them let me in? And I just find by conversing about things, maybe it's after school and one of them, we're walking home and the mom brought over the person's dog. And I could say, oh wow, you got a dog. And they tell me all about their dog. That's another way to let me in. Maybe I'm not really a dog person, but I can see that she really likes her dog. So unfortunately, our minds at times, while we're thinking I need to protect myself because this is an uncomfortable situation, at that point we tend to look aloof and separate. We're not meaning to, we're just distressed. And I've, over the years, tried to train myself, instead of recoiling, to come forward, to say, oh gosh, new kid on the block here. Where do you live? It looks like we live close together. May I walk home with you? So I ask questions. And by asking the question, that allows that person to freely agree to walking home with me. Not like, hey, we're going the same way, so I'm just going to walk with you. Well, they may want to talk on something personal. They don't want me walking with them. And so then I can cause havoc to myself. But if I can ask a question, if I can show up interested in their life, then they're going to be more apt to want to include me in their friend list. It's opposite to what we think. And again, because the mind has thought it was in charge, the only thing it could think to do is shut everything down. Just shut down. Don't talk. Don't move. Don't say anything.
You're kind of frozen.
And so now that's our habit energy. So I say again, it's not easy to speak up. Because like I said, the emotional system grows because you don't know how they're going to answer. They may say, well, another time, but my friend and I got to go. So you might ask the question and not get the answer you want. So it is a bit of a risk. But I can only tell you, I have spoken up. I have stuck my foot in my mouth. I have needed to ask forgiveness. I've been a little too forward, as we might say. That's a nice way of saying a little pushy. But I've been able to come back and ask forgiveness from these people, and eventually allowed them to see another part of myself that, mostly they've let me be their friends, and how cool is that? But I can say there's at least 5 people that I know of that asked to be removed from their internal email list.
Well,
okay, I'm a bit much. I know that, but at the same time, once people realize I'm not trying to be crazy or too silly, then they can get to know me as I get to start to know more of them.
Yeah.
So that's
Awesome.
what it is. It's, you know, we all have such unique experiences, even if you're a twin, because I have a friend who's a twin. We have unique experiences, we have awesome moments, and gosh, it would just be nice if somebody was like interested in hearing about it. Now again, we've made our life very economical and efficient, so now we don't have time for anything.
Right.
But not true in my world. I like to talk on the phone, and people know I like to hear from them because I know it's a gift that they let me in their life.
Absolutely. Well, let's let the viewers and listeners know again how they can get in touch with you and to find out about the internal external closet, the 5-step program, and more information and your books. And
right, two books, and you can learn more about The Body Talks and I Can Hear It and Magical Essence of Being Human and Divine on my website. It is my name, www.jeanielemaire.com. JeaniLemaire, and I spell it only because we French have a lot of vowels and it's not always audible when I go to speak it. I welcome you to go there and ask questions. You know, email me. My email information's there, info@jeanielemaire.com, and my phone number. I'm just saying, once we realize that in fame and fortune, we are always the star of our show. Yeah. You're the star of your life. Everybody that knows you knows how incredible you are. And we want to share that with more people. Yeah. I want to know how incredible you are. Other people want to know how incredible you are. So it's time for us to know, and this is what the emotional system does when it grows and when the mind backs it growing, is that we realize that we are magnificent. Now, people know I have this phrase that we're actually in our fullness magnificent pissants. And all I mean by that is that we all have our moments when we're tired, we're cranky, we're not listening, we fall short. Okay? We all have those moments. But that does not take away from our magnificence, but rather include it in. That's when we need to laugh on things or tell somebody they hurt your feelings, or whatever we can do to let people know that we're not just sticking to one side of our traits, that we're aware that there's much to us, much to others. We all deserve forgiveness. Absolutely. We all can use a good laugh.
Yes,
you know?
Absolutely.
At least I can.
Yes.
And that again, our mind, the mind is not so much to be in charge, it's here to support us individually, our emotional system, our mental system, our financial system, our spiritual needs, our vacation time. It's here to support us every way possible. And when we get to doing that more frequently, then people start to feel us differently. It's like our energy field, chakras and auras that precede us, start getting more vibrant. And people really are then more drawn to us as we're drawn to them. And that's when I think we can have a little more fun here on this planet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that, if you had any questions, we welcome questions. If you weren't able to ask any questions, you can put those and send them to admin@consciousawareness.tv.com, and we can get to those questions next week and answer. But we'd love to have the questions because it's really helping us. If there's anything out there that you want to know more about, or if there's a topic or something that you want us to really kind of talk about, because Jeanie will be back next week and she will be talking about happiness. And let's be happy. We haven't quite decided, but it's really about happiness.
Yeah, it's just the topic is just about happiness. And how often does someone say, well, are you happy today?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's one of those questions.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be December 19th, next Thursday, 11:30. And again, we want to thank Jeanie for being on the show again. Look forward to having you back next week. And we want to thank the viewers and the listeners, everyone out there that's made this possible. Alan, the Healing Studio, just all you guys. We couldn't do this without you, and we really are about raising the consciousness. And so thank you so much for joining and tuning in today. And if you didn't get a chance to tune in today, no worries, because you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Conscious Awareness TV, and you can view all of our archive shows. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next week, December 19th, on our show. Thanks so much.